9:45 p.m. Monday, October 11th, 2021. In 11 days, the Dune movie comes out. Hopefully I'll get to see it. Topic of today's video is nebulous. I'm going to attempt to cover a lot of things without switching topics per se. So we'll say that there isn't so much a topic as much as maybe this is kind of it's an appendix of information relating to some of the things I've spoken on. But it's going to come somewhat in the form of advice. If you are not stocked up on dry goods, you should be. If you are not stocked up on canned goods, you should be. If you're not keeping track of whether or not these items are healthy, you should be. If you do not know approximately how much food is required to give you your caloric intake per day at a minimum with said dry and canned goods, you should be. The Southwest Airlines business apparently is not a strike or a sick out with any organized nature to it. It would be what is called a standalone complex. What this means is approximately 30% of the people, of the pilots and who knows how many attendants and other staff refuse to get this medical procedure, were terminated or will be very shortly. In the meantime, the people that are allowed to continue to work, who have obeyed for whatever reason, got it, are being overworked. These are the ones who are calling in sick. They are not doing so in an organized fashion. They are simply at their limit, and they're like, you know what, it's not safe, can't work. And this is why there was a 30% reduction in flights over the weekend. For this coming weekend. There's going to come a point very soon when a lot of information is going to cease to be available. And it's best to think of these things as sooner rather than later. Do not procrastinate. Do not, I can just... Today I took my day off. I should have gone into town and I didn't. Tomorrow I'm going to get up. I'm going to go into town. I've got some shopping to do. Where I'm at in the Midwest is going to be one of the more later affected parts of the country. I believe the coasts are going to be the worst. I believe every large city over 1 million population is definitely going to be, an issue. There are container ships that are full of things that are trying to get to people. They're not able to get into the ports. There are not enough people working the ports, or for whatever reason, the ports are not accepting their docking. As they are waiting, what goods do get through, similar to the pilots with truckers, teamsters, anybody who has a CDL, there are a lot of people who are not able to work or not working for whatever reason, whether it's protest or standalone or what. In short, the supply chain is broken. What things will come through, and what things never come through, never come through. And good luck if you paid money on it. Maybe you can get a refund. Maybe it'll arrive 6 months later. Who knows? These issues are all caused by, or so we're told. Maybe these issues are due to, but not necessarily caused by. We'll put it that way. Things like mandates of a medical nature, or the supposed well-being of all. Underlying that, of course, the real cause is that there's a lot of cash grab going on. There is an authoritarian moment happening. There is foreign interference with our government, with our economics, with the fact that we, as a so-called free country, allow just about anyone that can afford and find a way through to officially, legally purchase property or lease things. If you've been paying attention to any of the videos I've done in the last, say, 3 to 4 years, you will know that a certain foreign nation whose government is totalitarian in its own country and seeks to become the dominant force economically in the world has leased a sizable amount of our ports for operation, which means they can slow walk, bumble, do whatever they need to do to stymie our economy, should they so choose to do. Remember what this video is about. Prep supplies. Online orders of prep supplies. People have been calling these patriot companies that advertise with all these different groups, and their stocks are low or out until they can get more. This is why I say stock up on dry goods. Get you some flour, get you some salt, get you some starch, get you some yeast. Oh, what else? Get you some sugar. That's going to be hard to come by. I have yet to figure out how to turn starch into sugar. Get the things that can store sealed and dry for a long time. Get a cookbook. Learn how to make the most basic things. A simple biscuit. A simple stew. These are things that will help survive. I'm going to get some oak. I've got walnut, and I've got what I believe is elm. But it's time to burn this and see if this is indeed oak. We'll see if we get that marvelous tea berry smell. It's definitely got that salmon wood color. So let's see what that does. Practice your survival methods. This right here contains all my charcoal. That got left out. Eventually this is going to get tossed in to dry out. Another thing to do is make a list of things that you're going to need to know, such as collecting rainwater, how to filter it. The long and short of it is take the charcoal, layer in the bottom of some kind of a bottle with an open bottom. You use a paper towel or a coffee filter to hold it in. You put a decent layer of charcoal. Then you put decent layer of sand, decent layer of charcoal, decent layer of sand. And you can even put one running into another if you really want. You run this through, you pour the water in. The water slowly makes its way through. The large particulate and biological matter will be filtered by the sand. It needs to be fine sand. After that, the charcoal will absorb any other materials out of it. You will basically have clear, pure water that comes out of that. At that point, you boil it. As soon as you bring it to the boil, and then we're talking, you get those bubbles, you get that roll. As soon as it starts to roll, you keep it covered so you don't lose out. As soon as it starts to roll, you take it off the heat, you put it into a clear container, or you can let it sit and cool if you like. But you put it into a clear container made of glass and seal the top, and you set this in direct sunlight for a day. At the end of this, you should have potable, purified, disinfected water. The ultraviolet from the sun is kind of the final cleaning. If you look into municipal water, that is oftentimes how it works after a membrane filtration, which is, of course, far more effective than, filtration through charcoal and sand. However, this method will work. I'm not saying this to drive panic. I'm saying this because the supply chain is broken. Things are only going to get worse before they ever get better. And we are nowhere near the point at which it's like, well, okay, things will get better. We may have to wait until 2024 for this to be seriously dealt with. If that is the case, at the very least, you need to have a good few months worth of survival rations just in case, and keep them and don't use them, so that when the point comes where fuel shortages or product shortages make it to the point that, people that work retail or service don't have a job to go to because the store's got to close because there's no product. Eventually, folks is the government going to say, well, due to the shortage, we're going to force the electric company to keep your power on? I kind of doubt that. They might. I mean, if they keep the power on, people can keep their phones charged and use their internet, and but at the same time, this moves us into a situation where everybody's got a effectively government mandated and subsidized high-speed data channel and power to each residence. This is keeping people's phones on. This enables the surveillance. So, it's possible we'll have power and utilities the entire time that this bizarro freaking end-of-the-world scenario happens. End of the world as we know it. And whatever we're supposed to build back better into, these people that are doing this are barely pulling this off. They're pulling this off because chaos is what is required, and they suck. So failing provides some chaos. The problem is going to be when they try to build anything with that chaotic structure, it's going to build random things. It's going to be like an ever-changing maze, or the complete wrong fit for whatever it is you think you need, or what you do need. So don't expect it to get better by official sources and authorities in the world making it better. You've got to be able to live on your own. You've got to be able to make do and survive for you and your own. It's going to hit the coasts. It's going to hit the large urban areas first and worst. Eventually, what could end up being is something not unlike in 1984, where if you've read the book, if you've really paid attention to the background, environment, scenery, not just the characters, the things they're saying, that world, that country that he lives in there, in that book and that movie, is a shambles. There's no steel. They tell you got to shave, but you don't have a razor. The one you got's rusty and dull. Nobody has food except for a little chocolate, a little bit of gin, basic rations. There are people who work for the outer party who are low-level, lackey government employees performing tasks. They take their orders from the inner party, who take their orders from Big Brother. And the rest of the people are what they call the proles, or the proletariat. These are the unwashed masses. These are the people that are being dominated. Many of them live in squalor. They nonetheless find ways to, catch a buzz, party, bizarre sexual orgies, whatever it is, all the things you can think of in an exaggerated and almost cartoonish version of what poor people do to pass the time. And the thing is, though, that they don't have much of nothing. Their basic ration, because it's some kind of a totalitarian communist thing, they're just making do on what little they have, and it isn't enough either, but they're not revolting either. Now, the thing is, in like a dystopian novels and all these warnings, these take them to the logical extreme. They are not necessarily going to ever get that bad, but you will see shades of it. You will see bits of it. You will see how that could conceivably become a thing, in a sense. The other thing is the success of the oppressors depends on a comprehensive understanding of human nature that the people that are doing this stuff simply lack. Because in general, there are some things you can assume, even in an unofficial, manipulative or sadistic category of how to treat people. There is a limit to which a person can endure certain types of emotional abuse before they will simply self-actualize themselves out. And this is a thing that is not taken into account in, for example, 1984. Now, if they put us into a Brave New World, pleasure-centric, selfish world, but also dominated by a Big Brother type scenario, that might work for a short time, and we've seen it work for a short time. But look at how many people are not into it. Look at how many people are chanting with the "Let's Go Brandon." Look at how many people are simply going about their lives regardless. And in America, this is happening because the states and their governors have an independent stance. Some states are going with it, some states are not. They are listening to their constituents. They know that more people have guns than don't. And unfortunately, the people of other countries that have let them go. In a future video, I will attempt to provide a few helpful links in that regard. And if anybody knows anybody from Australia or Canada or any of these countries where their government is showing no sign of relenting, regardless of what actual data and science show. For example, Norway, Denmark, and Sweden are restricting the use of certain vaccines after peer-reviewed study has shown there to be some serious consequences and after effects to certain age groups, notably children. They're also completely ending any and all pandemic restrictions or COVID lockdowns of any sort. As a result, in the intervening weeks, all of their COVID numbers have dropped. I've been saying for a while that this seems like one of those things where the harder you fight, the worse it gets, and sometimes the best thing is to just relax and not do anything for a minute and see what happens. Some of these countries where most of the most precision peer-reviewed science tends to come from, although also sometimes some pretty corrupt nonsense when it comes to vaccine efficacy and safety studies, they scratch each other's backs quite a bit. But as far as they're just looking at populations and rates, and the more they release this, the less it's an issue. Hilarious, ironic, a little weird. So I think I'm going to end it here. This is, as I said, kind of a nebulous topic, more of some additional context to other things. Honestly, right now it would be smartest to be prepared for contingencies. Because if you're not prepared for a contingency, you will be one of the casualties when food riots happen, when people maraud, if there become lawlessness no man's land. You get rape gangs. You get all kinds of terrible things in cities. So be prepared. That's all I can say. There's lots to learn about. YouTube is a marvelous place to learn about a lot. And, like I said, basic food preparation, basic, soup making, baking, simple things, because that's survival, that's sustenance. And from there, you have a chance to do better and to grow. Of course, get into gardening and everything else, too. So, yeah, this will get uploaded whenever it gets uploaded. I'm not going to start it until the other one is finished, and it's not even halfway. So, this will probably be up tomorrow. That is Tuesday that it'll start loading. And it'll hopefully get finished while I'm in town shopping. Have a good night.